Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to Jeff A. and Nadine V. Thank you for using my Tesla referral link and congratulations on your new Tesla. Real quick, if you emailed me last week letting me know you used my referral link last year and you did not yet receive my little thank you, just email me again and let me know. But pretty sure I have everybody covered that did reach out. As we all know, there are plenty of different reasons that different people come to be such a fan of Tesla the company. Just make sure you don't forget that Tesla is a company that tries to do good wherever it can. Over the weekend, Altadena Mountain Rescue posted on IG a donation of Cybertrucks from Tesla to be utilized as battery banks at the station until power is restored. This will greatly help the team to power radios, computers, and lights as we work into the dark. On X, Elon said, "Apologies to those expecting Cybertruck deliveries in California over the next few days. We need to use those trucks as mobile base stations to provide power to Starlink internet terminals in areas of LA without connectivity. A new truck will be delivered by the end of the week." Elon said, "We're going to position Cybertrucks with Starlink and free Wi-Fi in a grid pattern in the areas that most need it in the greater LA and Malibu area." Sunday evening, Elon said, adding a lot more to this effort tonight and tomorrow. Not only is Tesla providing these Cybertrucks, but they're adding security personnel in vehicle and snacks and beverages for passers-by. Today, Diligent Denizen on X said Elon just drove by us after dropping off Starlink to the firefighters at the Palisades. An entire caravan of Cybertrucks drove past us on the PCH. Impressive. I have to say, every day I grow to respect this guy more and more. Not only all of that, but Tesla said they're covering housing accommodations and supporting employees with transportation and meals. All of their supercharger sites are back online except the one in Pasadena. They're deploying their mobile Megapack charging units at various locations, as well as their mobile Powerwall units. At the end of the day, most of us invest to make money, but it's definitely a bit more enjoyable when you know that your money is going to support a company that does things like that. George Hotz, the president of Comma AI, is typically trying to talk up Comma AI and how they're on a similar level as Tesla's FSD, or at least very close. But this weekend, he said, drove around with version 13. If you haven't tried it, it's really good. Comma AI should be there in 2 years. We're massively scaling up training compute and data ingestion, finally seeing improvements scale with those things. To that, Sahil said, "I wonder how many heads of autonomy at OEMs intentionally ignore your existence to deny their incompetency." To that, George said, "LOL, yeah, how we feel about Tesla should be how Rivian and Lucid feel about us. It's that much more embarrassing for them since OpenPilot is open source." More importantly, George was asked if he still stands by his prediction that robotaxis are 5 to 10 years away, to which he said, "Yes, as impressive as my 30-minute drive was, the software crashed once and it made a maneuver that would have gotten us pulled over right away if a cop was watching. There's 3 to 4 orders of magnitude to go to human level. 1 order of magnitude is usually a factor of 10, so what George is saying is that FSD would need to improve by a factor of 1,000 to 10,000 before hitting human level." Again, at some point, I wish somebody would define what this human level actually was, because as many of us would agree, FSD is already better than at least some human drivers. And for what it's worth, I disagree with George on this take, but he has been building in the space now for years, so figured I would pass that along. And yes, that prediction from George has been added to the prediction tracker, and yes, we will check in on this in the weeks ahead. Maybe most importantly though, note that George said he only spent 30 minutes with version 13, so 1, that crash he reported is certainly not the norm, and 2, in my opinion, to make statements about the capability of a software with only 30 minutes of seat time is a bit reckless in my opinion. However, in fairness, I would say that 30 minutes is probably enough time to know at the very least that it's really good, as he said. TeslaScope pointed out a historic moment when it comes to Tesla's software, saying that there are 2 different FSD versions on the same Tesla software update. On software branch 2024.45.25.15, for the first time, it now has both FSD 13.2.4 for hardware 4 and 12.6.1 for hardware 3. Why might this matter? They said there's a possibility Tesla's now able to have multiple FSD builds within the same software update depending on your autopilot computer. But later that uncertainty was erased because they confirmed it was not a typo. So depending on how Tesla did this from a technical standpoint, they said this could mean anything from receiving FSD builds without needing a new software update to less delays given no need for branching based on model. I would further speculate there's a chance that Tesla has made some model size efficiency improvements to now enable for 2 different FSD versions on the same software branch. To put it another way, if this is the new trend going forward, Tesla could have one main software branch and then the FSD add-on, if you will, just one way to think about it, could be on whatever that software branch is, not needing its very own. And in that scenario, these FSD upgrades or add-ons could come with greater frequency, not having to wait for an update for the underlying software specific to each version. In my opinion, Tesla was already rolling out FSD updates at a pretty frequent pace, but that could accelerate from here, but it is just speculation for now. Ashok did say 12.6 is now rolling out generally to AI3 vehicles, and it's version 12.6.1 that's finally going to some AI3, Model 3, and Model Y vehicles, where previously it had only rolled out to the Model S and X. We also have FSD 13.2.4 now rolling out to some Cybertruck owners. Holmar said that Panasonic's 4680 cells are about to enter mass production, as he was told at CES. I wanted to clarify for now, this higher volume 4680 production will be at Panasonic's plant in Japan. The $4 billion factory that Panasonic is building in Kansas is going to start with 2170 type cells. However, if you were following along last year, there were rumors that Panasonic is considering an additional investment in Kansas to make 4680 cells there as well. They called that potential expansion Phase 3, and it would be largely to supply Tesla for the Cybertruck and next-gen vehicles. And because Japan does not have a free trade agreement with the United States, I believe at best 4680s from Japan, if Tesla were to use them in the US market, could only qualify for half of the EV tax credit. But the hope for Tesla would be by the time they need more 4680 supply, Panasonic does have 4680 lines set up in Kansas. Because remember, even if the $7,500 tax credit goes away, the production tax credit is likely to stay. And sure, Tesla would not be a direct beneficiary of 4680 cells made by Panasonic in the US. I'm just saying my argument here is that Panasonic will have reasons to expand its production in the US, including 4680s. Here's a photo of the new Model Y out in the wild in China. I just wanted to say, after watching the world react to this over the weekend, I decided to wait until we get the official specs for the North American variant rather than trying to deduce from how Tesla is doing things around the world. We should have the official pricing and specs, range, all of that good stuff here in the next few weeks. I did want to add, don't forget, much of the improvements go beyond the spec upgrades and won't be understood until you're in the vehicle, preferably driving it. The overall refinement, build quality, material improvements, suspension feel, NVH advances, etc. won't show up in the basic specs that everybody likes to form their judgments on. So let's make sure the North American variant is the same, get those official specs, yes, but then try to get in one of these vehicles as soon as possible before drawing final conclusions. And the word is that Giga Berlin is going to start producing the new Model Y tomorrow, which is Tuesday, January 14th. Which in my opinion is a great sign for what's to come for Fremont and Austin. This one is squarely in the rumor category, but a Chinese blogger said that Tesla received 50,000 orders for the Model Y on the day that they launched Project Juniper in China. Tesla has over 300 stores in China, and at one of them, they received nearly 300 orders on that one day. But for what it's worth, this blogger was right about when this vehicle was going to be launched in China. A Tesla salesperson revealed to Chinese media that the number of orders on that day exploded, and the outgoing Model Y became China's best-selling car for all of 2024. Not just best-selling EV, but the best-selling car of any type. Tesla Tesla sold over 480,300 Model Ys in 2024 in China. That number was up just over 5% from 2023. Tesla's VP in China has been promoting Tesla's safety, highlighting that their brand has not been recalled in over 6 years. But just note the BYD Chin Plus was only 284 units behind in the number 2 spot. For my Canadians, unfortunately, Tesla has raised the price of the outgoing Model Y by $1,000, so now not even the base variant qualifies for the iZEV credit. Tesla also upped the price of the Model 3. If there's a silver lining here, it's that the iZEV program in Canada was rapidly running out of funds anyway. And for the few thousand of you that watch from the Philippines, if you ordered a Model Y, you'll automatically be upgraded to the new Juniper model when deliveries start. The word is Model 3 deliveries are set to start in the Philippines this month. And if you ordered the deep blue metallic outgoing color, you'll automatically be upgraded to the new glacier blue exterior for free. As you would expect for Tesla opening up into a new market, a salesperson at a Tesla store in the region said that demand for Tesla vehicles is excellent. On that note, Tesla achieved a pretty serious milestone last year as it beat Audi in overall global sales for the first time. Last year, Audi sold 1.67 million vehicles, down 12% from 2023. As we've noted, they've been struggling with intensifying competition in Europe and China and weak demand for their EVs. So yes, Tesla has jumped Audi as they delivered 1.79 million vehicles in 2024. Audi's deliveries of fully electric vehicles also declined 8% to around 164,000. Audi's also planning to close a site in Brussels because of poor demand for the electric Q8 e-tron. Another brand for Tesla to take down in a future year would be Mercedes. In 2024, Mercedes sold 2.4 million vehicles around the world. Now, if Mercedes were to be flat for 2025, Tesla would need roughly 35% sales growth to eclipse Mercedes in 2025. Just to clarify, on one of Tesla's recent recalls, part of it was actually a physical upgrade, not OTA. On a small percentage of affected vehicles, upon a vehicle power-up, a reverse current may cause a shorting failure on the car computer board, resulting in the loss of rear-view camera functionality. But in some cases, if an affected vehicle experienced the shorting failure condition, then Tesla will replace the vehicle's car computer at no cost to the customer. Norway is well on its way to achieving the milestone of 100% of new car sales being electric. And listen to what an executive at a car dealership over there said. "We think it's wrong to advise a customer coming in here today to buy an ICE car because the future is electric." I think many here would agree that is not at all the mindset of most dealerships here in America. But hopefully we do get there one day. And don't forget, this process was like 3 decades long in Norway. They started little by little taxing internal combustion cars more and more, while simultaneously exempting EVs from certain taxes. But as far as I can tell, one thing most people don't talk about is how Norway has had long-term EV policies, so the entire industry has been able to plan accordingly. And one thing most people don't mention about the Norway story is that, as far as I can tell, they have had long-term predictable EV policies in place, so the industry has been able to plan accordingly. Again, at least so far, that scenario is pretty foreign to the American auto industry. Right now in America, EV policies are doing their best to yo-yo impressions. In another beat the buzzer scenario, the Department of Transportation announced $635 million in EV charging, but part of that is for other clean transportation. The money will be deployed across 27 states, 4 tribal areas, and the District of Columbia. More than 3 dozen projects expanding community EV charging will get $368 million, and then $268 million will go towards 7 corridor fast charging projects. But these are the ones deploying alternative fueling capabilities, largely hydrogen. In total, the grants will help install more than 11,500 EV charging ports and hydrogen and natural gas fueling infrastructure. Doing some digging, it turns out there will be 42 of these community building EV charger projects. So taking the amount allocated for those 42 projects turns out to about $8,761,000 per project. Or you can do that same $368 million divided by the 11,500 total ports it's supposed to support, which is $32,000, which would be reasonable, but we don't really know the breakdown between level 2 chargers and things that are more online with superchargers. I run those numbers because yet again, Tesla has been snubbed in this round of EV charger funding. 49 applicants in total have been selected to receive this money, and Tesla's application for about $100 million to fund a semi-charging corridor was once again passed over. Tesla's partner on the project, California's South Coast Air Quality Management District, confirmed that the partnership also applied for this round of funding. Initially, Tesla was hoping to get that $100 million and use $24 million of its own money to build 9 electric semi-charging stations between its former HQ in Northern California and the southern border of Texas. Each of those stations was supposed to be equipped with 8 750 kilowatt chargers for the Tesla Semi and 4 other chargers that would be open to other electric trucks. The project was officially called Transport Electrification, supporting semis operating in Arizona, California, and Texas, or Tesseract. Tesla's former VP Rohan Patel said last year that some of the sites along this 1,800-mile planned route were no-brainers even without funding. Some are making the argument Tesla was left out of the funding because of the perceived uncertainty around Tesla's supercharger program after the 10% layoffs earlier last year. For what it's worth, there could be a future funding round here, but as for a lot of things right now, we have to wait and see what Trump chooses to do. So look, does Tesla need $100 million to succeed? Obviously not. But as we've highlighted in the past, it's just the principle. When you talk about efficiency and government spending, the fact that you don't want to give Tesla money to accelerate what they're already doing just doesn't make any sense if you really want the best and most reliable EV chargers on the market, especially for an industry that's building out from its infancy in the EV semi market. But the truth is, we can't be naive and expect the Biden administration to do the right thing after all of the support that Elon threw behind Trump. And look, I'm not at all justifying that decision, I'm just saying it's the world that we live in right now. Responding to this news of yet another Tesla snub, Elon just said, sigh. I'll admit it'll be tough to draw any conclusions from this news bit, but I think it's important to watch what lithium prices are doing. The reason I say it's difficult to draw conclusions is because in most cases we don't have any idea how the contracts for specific companies in the space are actually structured. I believe on a conference call a few years ago, Tesla said at the time that only less than 10% of their lithium purchases were on the spot market, meaning 90% plus of Tesla's lithium deals are done on long-term contracts, which obviously insulates Tesla from many of these price fluctuations. But with that said, lithium prices are expected to stabilize in 2025 after 2 years of steep declines. From the peak in November 2022, lithium prices are down 86%. But now, the global lithium supply glut is predicted to shrink by half. Thus, when it comes to spot market pricing, a battery analyst said we expect to see a price recovery for lithium in 2025 as the curtailment seen in 2024 and the possibility of further curtailments will significantly reduce the market surplus. In this case, curtailments are limiting production. As always, the context here matters. If you look at a chart dating back to 2018, you can see that right now we're effectively back to pre-COVID levels. And so you know this is the pricing in Chinese yuan. Another very important long-term topic not many are covering is the current battle over LFP technology between China and the US and really the rest of the world. Last week, China's Ministry of Commerce proposed a rule to restrict Chinese companies from exporting equipment or know-how to make the advanced LFP batteries used by Tesla and Chinese automakers, and if that rule is finalized, Western battery makers could be relegated to manufacturing offering second-rate LFP batteries. Not only that, but the US Department of Defense recently blacklisted China's CATL. They actually designated it as an arm of China's military, to which CATL responded by denying that's the case. Hopefully right now some of you are remembering that last year Tesla bought older equipment from CATL to make LFP cells in Nevada. Now yes, this change from China is still just a proposal, so another thing we're going to have to wait and see how Trump chooses to handle. And I think you all know it's not just Tesla relying heavily on LFP battery tech, it's really everyone in the auto industry that's making or trying to make affordable EVs. It's speculation for now, but even if the rule is finalized, CATL, BYD, and others could still sell their best batteries to Western companies, but the Chinese companies would be barred from offering the know-how for doing so to non-Chinese companies. It sounds like non-Chinese companies may be able to make older versions of LFP tech, just not the latest and greatest coming from China. One analyst is expecting companies like Tesla to simply buy their LFP from CATL, even if politicians scream about the alleged links to the Chinese military. So unless things go south, the concern here may not be that Tesla can't get access to LFP cells, it's that over the next few years, Tesla wouldn't have the ability to make its own LFP cells in-house, vertically integrating as I'm sure they would like to do. This one is quite brutal. A Dutch civil service pension fund, ABP, one of the biggest funds in the world, has sold its investments in Tesla. It sold its 2.8 million shares of Tesla because it was unhappy about Elon's compensation plan and poor working conditions at the company. It should come as no surprise then that the fund voted against Elon's pay package last June. This is a perfect example of why more things should be politics aside, because September of last year, Tesla's stock price was hovering around $228 a share. AKA, this pension fund sold right before the major run-up. So basically, thanks to mis and disinformation, the company sold about $650 million of Tesla stock at a terrible time. Replying to that news, Elon said, so they lost $500 million and failed their constituents. Yes, they did. Someone shared an invoice with Gregor Truck, and it turns out the official Cybertruck off-road light bar cost $2,500 from Tesla, which at the very least now makes the foundation package Tesla was offering a bit more attractive. Porsche's global sales for 2024 were down 3% year over year. Even worse though when it comes to the Taycan that they spent plenty of time refreshing on their own, it sold just 20,800 units, down 49% year over year. Porsche's also planning to lay off 30% of its workforce in China. The Nvidia account posted the Biden administration's AI diffusion rule will stifle innovation and undermine America's global tech leadership. Restricting access to mainstream computing risks derailing AI progress for industries at home and abroad. As of today, this AI diffusion rule is an interim final rule, which just means it's currently in force, but it may be subject to modifications based on feedback. Nvidia's VP of Government Affairs called this one a sweeping overreach, but of course from the Biden administration's perspective. But in summary, the new rule has three parts. One, being more export controls on chips. Two, more controls on the specific model weights on some of the most advanced models. And third, the Bureau of Industry and Security will impose security conditions to safeguard the storage of the most advanced models. I'm not going into detail here because with a Trump transition a week from now, yet again, we don't really know how this is going to play out. If you're impatient and want to learn more about this rule before Trump takes office, I'll have a link to the official release below. And here's part of Nvidia's official statement in response. The first Trump administration laid the foundation for America's current strength and success in AI. In its last days in office, the Biden administration seeks to undermine America's leadership with a $200+ plus page regulatory morass drafted in secret and without proper legislative review. A morass is basically a difficult situation to get out of. And Nvidia said while cloaked in the guise of an anti-China measure, these rules would do nothing to enhance US security. This rule, however, is not enforceable for 120 days. Obviously, this will be one to keep an eye on. As we know, Tesla is increasingly an AI company, so this will have direct impacts not only on Nvidia, but Tesla as well. Ray for Tesla reported the Beijing Municipal People's Congress recently passed the Beijing Autonomous Driving Vehicle Regulations. They're set to go into effect on April 1st, 2025. These regulations for the first time outline specific rules for the use of level 3 driving and higher level private vehicles on public roads. In response to this, he said regulatory approval for FSD likely to happen soon. Morgan Stanley put out a new Tesla price target of $430 per share as a base case, but they said ultimately Tesla could double to $800 per share. That's because Tesla's position in semi-autonomous electric robots could allow the company to convert car owners into subscribers, generating highly recurring revenue. But here's why I'm sharing this. Jonas is saying they're expecting Tesla to deploy 7.5 million autonomous vehicles by 2040. Let's just be ultra conservative here and assume that none of Tesla's current vehicle fleet will be robotaxis. We know that's not the case, but just stick with me. According to Morgan Stanley, from that basis, from here forward, 7.5 million over the next 15 years is only 500,000 robotaxis deployed per year. Over the next 15 years. All I'll say, with Cybercab set to enter production in 2026 and the goal to be 2 to 4 million units of just the Cybercab alone, and adding in a portion of Tesla's existing fleet that will of course be robotaxi capable in the future, I think even Morgan Stanley's bull case of 12 million by 2040 is going to be far too low. Kia's timeline for supercharger access has been delayed from January 15th to spring 2025. A PR person said a delay has occurred and we're working with the appropriate teams to confirm new availability and dates. Tesla stock closed the day at $403.31, up 2.17%, while the Nasdaq was down 0.3%. The volume was 25% below the average. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.